Would you be interested in developing conscious choice? Would you be interested in creating reactions rather than waiting for one to come? Would you be interested in combining serendipity and synchronicity? Would you be interested in making 1 + 1 = 3? Would you be interested in finding out about full impact mindfulness? If so, I challenge you to join myself, Jim Ellermeyer, a cognitive behavioral health therapist, every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. on the River's Edge, where we will challenge you to allow us to help you help yourself to fully participate in your life. Let the adventure begin.
All right, welcome back to the River's Edge Radio Network. Brian Crawford here. You just heard your weather report with Heather Neville. She's back. She just moved, so she was absent for quite a while. But one gentleman who's been on the network for about a month, I believe, Jim Ellermeyer, he's right here across the table from me. How are you today?
Just grand.
Good. So
Super groovy, we'd say in the old days.
You've got a cup that says chill, so that's kind of cool, right?
You bet.
So, yeah, we're all excited to have you guys on, and I think it just fit Sunday, like the day that I was looking Sunday, I think it's just like is the perfect content for that day. And I enjoy the show. It's a good program. And why don't you tell everybody what you do?
Well, I'm a mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapist. In the past, everyone associated mindfulness with shaved head monks in saffron and yellow robe, sitting in pillows in a temple in Thailand, surrounded by 10,000 candles, going all day. However, my concept of life is a bit different. For those of you who are familiar with The Wizard of Oz, when the original first part of the film was filmed in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, when Dorothy lands in Oz, the tornado takes her house and lands in Oz. When she opens the door, what does she see? Technicolor, the world in color, the world in bright. It was her stepping out of her mundane black and white world and fully participating in life. And that's the type of view, that's the type of vision that I have for people.
I know listening to your program, you often talk about choices that you can make as an individual to take control of your life, and I always related to that because I get frustrated, I guess, because you always see people they stay in their rut. They're not unwilling to take chances on themselves, and then they sit there and whine and moan and cry because they're not where they want to be. And I whine and moan and cry because I'm not where I want to be, but I'm also pushing to try to make that happen. So many people are so content to just sit still and wait for things to happen to them, and then they complain about not getting the luck or the right hand that they need to get things done.
Brian, most people walk through their life with their eyes wide shut and live their life on wishes and hopes, waiting for something and hoping for something to happen. So it takes action and effort to involve yourself in your life. And I often use a story to illustrate this, and it involves the divine. There was a person who prayed to win the lottery every day. Sweat, blood, nothing ever happened. So eventually, after a while, they got so angry, they got so pissed off that they ran outside and they yelled up at the sky. They said, "God, why won't you let me win the lottery?" And God called back down and said, "Could you meet me halfway and at least buy a ticket?" So the idea with full impact mindfulness is buying the ticket on your life. Be your own travel agent. Don't let your thoughts and feelings in life be your travel agent and take you where they want you to go.
How did you get involved with this? How did you start the podcast? Tell us a little bit about your background.
My background, I'm had many different phases of my life, many different reincarnations. However, in this one was evolved in the 12-step recovery world.
Mm-hmm.
I had certainly had more than my share of time of troubles. However, in the 12-step recovery world, which involves a change in your thoughts and a change in your actions, I began to see what was truly important in my life. And what's truly important is carrying this message to others who still suffer.
How do people? People can obviously access us through the River's Edge Radio Network and your website, fishingwithoutbait.com. But I guess how do you get out to people? Obviously through things like the River's Edge.
The way I wanted
What's your goal, I guess, with the podcast?
my goal is to help people. My goal is to help people live their lives as fully as they possibly can. Have you ever seen a horse race? Thoroughbred horse race.
On TV, never in
Okay,
person.
cool. So these are big, magnificent animals, and they can do one thing, and they can do it well. However, what do these horses have on their eyes?
Yeah,
They have blinders on, blinders, and that's what I call an expert's mind. Okay, so when most people walk through their life, they walk with an expert's mind. They have a narrow focus, and that's all they can see. Okay, their view and their view only. So have you ever been around a 3 or a 4-year-old child?
yes.
And
yes.
when they look at something and they look at the awe and the wonder that they view the whole life with, why do children ask so many questions, Brian?
Because
They're so interested, they're so curious. So when did we lose that? When did we become so jaded? When did we put those blinders on?
I guess that's the good thing about being a talk radio host is you're not an expert on anything. You're just a bullshitter, so you can get through anything. No, that's a good point. There's a song that's out there, and it's not on our network because it's a national song, but it's if I can't think of the name offhand, it's 21 Pilots writes the song.
Yes.
It's Stressed Out, and
Yes.
I often think of that song because, as somebody who's approaching 30, people say, it's time to, get a job with a pension or do this or do that. And I have that job, but I have no plans on staying there, which, drives some people nuts who I'm related to. But even at this age, I'm looking to approach new things, enter new things, and try to make this network grow. And that song always related to me because I think it's kind of talking about the same message in a way, a different variety of it, but it's in the same ballpark where just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to fall into this trap of the mundane
Absolutely.
and doing what's expected. You can still pursue things in life. There's not an age limit as to when you can stop learning or stop expanding your horizons and bettering yourself.
No, you can teach an old dog new tricks. Excuse me. You can teach an old dog new tricks. It's a concept called neuroplasticity. However, what I try to help people, what I try to address the issue is that most people are time travelers. They have frequent flyer miles to the past or the future with brief layovers in the present. So normally when we're living in that past, we're living in resentment, or we're living in frustration. We're living in anger. We're living in things I wish I would have done or wish I would not have done, things I wish I would have said or things I wish I would not have said. How often do we go there? The past becomes a tar pit and we bring that pain of the past into the present. Or when we're living in the future, we're living in anxiety and worry, and underlying all that is fear. So by fully participating in the moment, we turn that past into experience and wisdom, and we turn that future into goals and ambitions. Goals and ambitions are accomplished by action and effort in the present. It's when we plan definitive results, when we walk through our life with our eyes wide shut, that we set ourselves up for disappointment. Hence my concept of fishing without bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, because when we place those rigid expectations on ourselves, we set ourselves up for disappointment and failure. Have you ever seen people that live their life on the I have to, I need to, I must?
Yes, I have certain goals. Now, my thing is I don't set time frames for myself, and maybe that's where there's a difference. Where, but I do, expect certain things to happen. I expect this network to succeed. I expect certain things to happen, and I won't take no for an answer. But I don't necessarily have a rigid timeline that's attached to that.
So you put yourself in a position to succeed. Can you put yourself in a position to succeed by being in the future or being in the past? No, it's right
Not
now.
completely, I don't think.
When I ask people where are they at, they give me all type of answers, and I will often suggest, well, you're right here. You're right here. And I ask them, how do they know they're right here? Then I ask them to fully describe everything that they see in front of them, completely in detail. And then I ask them what time it is, and quite often they'll look at some nonsense device on their wrist or a computer screen, and I'll suggest to them that it's right now. Then I ask them, could it possibly be any time other than that? Could it possibly be? So one of the ways that I help people bring themselves back into the moment is asking them, where are you at and what time is it? Well, I'm right here and it's right now. That's my mantra.
Now, I have a question. So say we talked about the past, and What if you're somebody who uses that anger and that resentment to push themselves forward? Say somebody who hasn't succeeded, but they're angry about that situation and they turn that into action.
Emotions are wonderful. Feelings are wonderful. They're neither good or bad. They just are. So the idea is that we must be able to identify and label these emotions so they can be of some use to them. Then we can. Desperation can be the most powerful gift that anyone can ever have. And so, why do people name pets, Brian? Why do people name?
I've heard this
animals?
episode. Yeah, I was listening.
why
Yeah,
do they do
because
that?
it builds that personal connection, that emotional connection. It's the same as a child naming their stuffed animal, even.
Sure, absolutely. So if you did not give your dog a pet a name, and it ran outside, how could you get it back?
Yeah.
You run outside and you'd be lost. And this is the way that some people get lost in their fears, and they get lost in their thoughts and feelings and emotions because they can't identify them. They get lost. So when you're able to identify, this is fear. I am fearful. Where did that come from? So remember, what we deal with is behaviors. And so what we look is what's driving those behaviors. And fear can be a powerful force. Powerful. Have you ever been to the ocean?
I love the ocean. It's my favorite place to visit.
Cool. Did you ever stand up in front of you see people standing in front of waves, and the big waves come in? And what does
Yes.
the waves, what do they do? What do the waves do to people?
It can push them back.
They push them
Yes.
back, they knock them down, they buffet them around. However, have you seen people that go out into the waves, and the waves come in, they spread their arms out, they get a little loosey-goosey, and what do?
Yeah, they ride the.
They use the power of those emotions rather than fight against them.
Makes
So,
sense.
so when you were a young person, people that are out there, if you're on the playground and somebody pushes you, what's the natural tendency?
Push them back.
You push them back. So remember, what we resist persists. So when we push, they push back, and then people spend much, much, much energy fighting off thoughts in their head the whole day. Okay, so the idea is let's use that energy, let's use that emotion, but first of all, we have to be aware of it and recognize it, and that means being right here and being right now.
Yeah, it's a fascinating show, and there's so much great advice. And does most of this come? Well, I imagine this show is a hybrid of your personal experiences coupled with what you've learned educationally. Is that accurate?
It's a mixture. I often joke with people that I haven't had an original idea in years, that I generally take and steal and
That's a talk radio host on mantra, you know.
and manipulate and massage and try to turn out some of that people can actually use. I'm not interested in lecturing people. I'm interested in providing useful experiences that they can incorporate in their life.
And that makes a huge difference, because I know I'm somebody, if you come at me waving that finger, I'm going to run the other way, because who in the hell are you? That's my mindset. You know, who in the hell are you to tell me? But if you're having a conversation, or if you approach something, you approach something at advice in a caring way, people are going to be much more receptive to that.
I'm not looking to help people find themselves. I'm an older hippie. However, what I'm interested in helping people create themselves.
Yes.
Create themselves.
And I think that's a big distinction, because everyone talks about finding themselves, and that's a waiting process. It's almost like it's wasted time. I don't know. I've always been somebody, I like to jump in and create my own path. At WCAL, when I was there at that station, and, there was conflicts with the station manager, I said, screw it, I'm going to start my own thing, and here I am. The station manager's working at Get-Go. I own a radio network. So she's the type who, she's waiting for things to happen to her. She, I had this internship, they're going to want me, instead of going out and making your own tape and putting your own effort out there and making yourself a marketable person. And not only can that help you, I think, in making yourself, as you say, but it also helps in practical areas such as finding a job. If you're somebody who's going to be out there and you're going to build your resume, you're going to build yourself up as a person, and then you can go in with that confidence, your employer is going to see that as well.
Many people spend most of their time thinking about things that I can't do rather than things that I can. So what I'm asking people is to actually literally and figuratively, to reverse the lenses in their glasses and focus on the positive aspects of their life. We could concentrate on character defects and weaknesses for the next 6 months, and I almost guarantee you things will get worse. So the idea is that every single human being has gifts, talents, and abilities inside them. And it's not through begging, pleading, crying, screaming, yelling, threatening that you get those out. It's through encouragement and support. I don't give any people sympathy, Brian. When you give somebody sympathy, you're participating in their misery. What I do offer them is encouragement and support, and understand that people have an awesome, amazing ability to understand their own issues and resolve their own problems. It's just at the time that they have their eyes wide shut.
That's a good point. And when you come together, that's how you're able to build wonderful things. I know personally, I know my weaknesses. That's the reason why there's a technology person associated here. I know enough to get through, but if we get a computer virus, I'm helpless. Financial, I understood, I'm not, finance is not my strong suit. When I started an organization at CalU to raise money for cancer, I put somebody in charge of the finances. I said, keep me away from it. This is on you. We don't want to go bankrupt before we get started. But I think if you understand that, you're able to use other people to help you, and you can help each other and build each other up by understanding that we all have different talents that we could use to work together.
And that's also lowering ego. When our egos begin to overcome us, and we begin to think from our thoughts rather than at them, then they become a travel agent that takes us to an undesirable destination.
So what do we have on the horizon for Fishing Without Bait?
Fishing Without Bait, I've recently come up with, in the last 8 or 9, 10 podcasts, I've come up with a concept like what I call full impact mindfulness. It's when we approach that wall rather than bounce off it, we can transform ourselves, much like the butterfly coming out of a cocoon and coming out into that beautiful butterfly and truly, truly experiencing life, having that tingle. I talk about the tingle. Walking through life with a tingle.
I like it. Tingling. It's fun. It's a fun word. I like it. It does. When you say that word, there's a feeling that's associated with it. So it really can bring kind of the description to life.
Sometimes I call it popping in. When we pop into life and we're really there and we're really experiencing what's going on right in front of us. So my goal with full impact mindfulness with Fishing Without Bait is to help people be popped in all the time.
Definitely check it out at fishingwithoutbait.com, and you can hear it every Sunday morning here at 7 a.m. at riversedgepgh.com. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for having me. Be kind to yourself. Be good to another.
Absolutely. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow, right here, 10 a.m., the same place, the same time. We are bringing back Jay Cooper. He's back in studio. Very excited about this. Jay is a hilarious guy. He's been with us from the beginning. You cannot miss this. riversedgepgh.com tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm Brian Crawford. We'll catch you tomorrow morning.